Boys and girls, wow, what a pleasure to be live, being taped on the air again. It's pretty awesome. The Lion's Den of Leadership podcast with myself, Alex Osenenko, my co-host, Steve Rozenberg, is back on. We took a little bit of vacation. Steve needed to fix some things in his business. I needed to go out and get some more ideas for the guests and topics. But Steve went ahead and booked an awesome guest today. And I let him introduce our guest. Just want to sort of outline the premise of the show did not change, right? We took a couple of weeks off, but we're looking to help entrepreneurs and folks who are running their businesses to do better, to grow faster, to get the wealth they're looking for flowing into them and their families, while making everybody around them happy and rich. So that's the premise of the show. Steve, why don't you introduce our guest?
Sure. So Brad Sugars is founder of ActionCOACH International. And Brad, let me know if I screw this up, but 25 years founder, 1,000 coaches in over 70 countries it's been franchised. So to say that Brad knows a little bit about business, it would probably be a disclaimer and a misnomer. I know Brad has spoken on stages with Richard Branson and other, like people. He's a friend of mine. He's been a mentor of ours. Full disclosure, he is part owner of Empire Industries with us to help us grow strategically, as he's done with many, many other businesses. And one of the reasons I wanted to have Brad on the show is, Alex, a lot of times we get a lot of these people that seem to say, my industry is different. We need a industry-specific coach to help me grow my business, not someone who just does the fluff of the business, which as you know, I'm a huge outspoken critic of that mindset. I don't think it's an or, it may be an and. And I know Brad is, I'm going to say maybe 10 books you've written, and I know you just wrote a new book on profit. And so, Brad, first of all, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on the show with us.
It's good to be here, Alex. Thanks for having me, buddy. Steve, yes. Actually, this is book number 17. This is number 17, Pulling Profits. There's the other ones up there on the shelf. And yeah, ActionCOACH just opened in Russia, our 88th country. So we now have... we're about 1,100, 1,200 offices. I know the team would give me the exact number, but 88 countries we coach business people in, everywhere from South Africa to Chile to Russia, China, India, all across the States and Canada. You name it, we help business owners. Literally hundreds of thousands of them every month work with my coaches somewhere in the world. So it's a lot of fun helping business people, but it's also a big responsibility, Entrepreneurs are, I guess to put it simply, they take on the biggest job in the world. That is giving other people jobs and taking the risk of it. So, yeah, kudos to all the entrepreneurs on today's chat.
Yeah, and we got a good one for you folks. Brad, this is incredible. You must have a lot of fun, sort of visualizing everything that you were able to accomplish. So just one thing is to do good work and get paid. The other thing is to do good work, get paid, and change lives, right? This is pretty profound. But let me ask you this: what are you worried about? Like you teach a lot of concepts. You understand. You run the businesses yourself. You're on the board of a lot of companies like Empire. What keeps you up at night, if anything, these days?
Well, I'm a father of 5. I guess that's more the thing. I have, 2 teenage daughters that one's just got a license. The other one's had it for a while. I don't know. I mean, I have a 10-month-old baby. That actually keeps me up at night, if anything, the 10-month-old. I don't worry about much, buddy. I'm not a worrier. Someone once said to me, with all those businesses, how do you not do stress? I said, well, I don't do stress. I give people stress. That's their job. I pay them to do the stress. My job is to be the owner. And as the owner of the business, your job is to create a business that works without you. And so For instance, my restaurant here in Las Vegas, we've just doubled the size, and I think the total investment was around $5 million. I haven't been in there in 6 months. So, when you have a great partner or a great team or that sort of thing, you got to build them so that they do it. The thing to always remember about business, Alex, is if you build the people, they build the business. If you don't build the people, you got to build the business. So it's your choice.
I have Steve, sorry, I'm going to take this line of questioning because this is really sort of self-fulfilling at this point, because I wouldn't say, look, it's this time, I'm right around this time, the crest, about the crest, where in my business is would probably do, be honest with you, better without me than with me. I'm a disruptor. We need a careful, thoughtful operator to be able to control, run the business, grow. We have the product market fit, right? We have the clientele. We have slight profitability. If I pull my check out, right, the profitability would go up. And we can bring in, upgrade people, what have you. Brett, how do you know, man, it's the time? How do you, what are some of the components? And sorry, Steve, I'm going selfish, but
sorry.
We have people that sit right now on the edge of their seats like, hey, I want to do that too. What are the components, Brad, that I need to think about and understand and know? What are some of the KPIs to know I can step away?
Well, first and foremost, the timing is when you ask the question, it's the time. Okay. And that's always the thing. It's like people say to me, how do you know when the real estate market's going to turn? Well, when you start seeing articles in the newspaper of, is the market too high? Guess what? It's going to turn fairly soon. If you start seeing articles saying, is the market bottomed out? Guess what? It's going to turn pretty soon. Same is true for business. Now, the thing that I would go back to is the human element. Have you built a replacement for you? Have you built someone that can run the business without you? Because ultimately I always teach people, on the day you start a business, you need to set a date. And the date is the day the business will run without you. On that date, what will the revenues be? What will the profitability be? Therefore, what will the value of the business be on that date? What do you need to build in order to make it that business is ready for sale when you go to that? So that to me is a really important point. Then you got to build the people, the systems, the reputation, the marketing, all that sort of stuff. I find, Alex, that a lot of people leave the business a little too early. And the reason I say that is because, the people can run the business if you're there every day, but you've got to start taking a week off or 2 weeks off or 3 weeks out and be away from it and see what happens in that stuff, because the systems are good, solid systems while you're there, but are the systems good, solid systems when you take a step back? Add to that, and this is one of the reasons I wrote this book, buddy, because this book is all about exponential growth, pulling profits. When a business is in steady mode, the systems, the people, all of these things can be strong when it's in steady mode. The question is, will it stay strong when you are in growth mode? If the business is in growth, can the people handle it? And there's a big difference between the two. When I watch business people that, they're not adding 20 new customers a week. They're adding 1 new customer a week to replace the one they lost. When a business is status quo or steady like that, pretty easy for the systems to handle. When the business is in growth mode, adding 20, 30%, 10, 20, 30% of exponential year on year, that's when you find out if your systems are any good or not. That's when you find out if your people are any good, your planning is any good, all that stuff.
Very, very profound.
Hey, Brad, I have a question. So you wrote this book. Now, I've read probably almost all of your prior books, which are all pretty much specific, whether it's referrals, how to franchise, how to market, leads, all of that. Is this book indicative of something that you see as a void in the business world right now? Like, did you see something that wasn't happening and that compelled you to write this book, or what was the reason for this book?
I was sitting there with a buddy of mine at lunch, and he said a statement to me that he thought was, quite smart about business. And I went, hang on, what do you mean? Here's what he said. He said, it just seems like magic, the way these companies like Apple and IKEA and Amazon, it just seems like magic the way they keep growing. And I looked at him, I said, you don't honestly believe that, do you? And he said, what do you mean? I said, magic is just a system. Every magician just has a system for doing something that works. And every business is a systematic methodology. So I went to one of my top coaches and I said, listen, all of our clients who are doing tens of millions a year and growing exponentially, what's the difference between them and the clients who aren't? So we looked at what are the things that they're doing that other clients aren't. And we found 5 disciplines. And so we sat down and said, and this is why I pulled, see, this is the topic, pulling profits out of a hat. It's not magic to add zeros to the bottom line, because I wanted my buddy to realize, hey, this isn't magic. This is just normal things that businesses do. And if you follow the disciplines the same way others follow the disciplines, you can have exponential growth too. So does it fill a gap in the market? Well, I hope so, Steve. That would make it a bestseller, I guess. But what I do know is that within the people I work with and talk with on a regular basis, they're doing this grow, plateau, or grow, dip, grow, plateau type thing. They're not in grow, 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 grow. And so they fall into that trap. And so I'm trying to help them with not being in that trap, I guess.
Do you think technology, so from when you started, right, and growing today, does that help or hurt people in the growth using technology? Like, it can be a tool.
Listen, if you are the last one in your industry to adapt to technology, you're the last one in your industry. That's pretty simple. And let's understand, technology's always been here. When I first started, the technology I used is cassette tape dubbing machines. That was the technology
right.
of the day. Today, it's podcasts. Today, it's so many things. I mean, you've always got to be taking advantage of the latest in technology. And unfortunately, a lot of business people say, well, I can't afford to invest in that. And listen, I get that. I get it. I've done that. But that comes back to how good are you at your sales and marketing to be able to afford those systems. If people go back and read one of my earlier books, The Business Coach, which that's the recipe for growing a business from scratch. How do you actually do it? What's the recipe? Because you don't follow the recipe, you can't make a good cake. You don't follow the recipe for business, you won't build a good business. And we had coached 13,000 companies to success before I wrote the book on Here's the System for actually doing that. I'm a firm believer, Alex and Steve, I'm a firm believer in this one simple fact. When a business owner knows what to do, the business grows. You can't build a better business unless you build a better business owner. It's just the basics.
Gotcha. I'm wondering if potentially you can let us peek under the covers a little bit. I'm personally I'm curious. Like you mentioned 5 disciplines. Will you give us a few? Maybe we can talk about all
Sure.
5. Is that
sure? Let's first of all understand though what exponential growth is, because if I talk to the average business owner, they're looking at 10% growth or 20% growth. I'm looking at saying, how do you do 10 times or 20 times growth? What is it that you're aiming to build? Are you aiming to build a replicatable business? Are you aiming to build a single office in a single location? Or are you aiming to build something you can take national or international? And let's use a simple example of that. If you've seen the movie The Founder, Ray Kroc is a perfect example of, he didn't found the business, he found the business. The McDonald brothers created this amazing turnkey operation. And Ray Kroc came along and said, hang on, how do I put this on every street corner in America? Later on, every street corner in the world type thing. And so a lot of business people don't understand that their job is to create a replicatable basic product. Your basic product is the business, and then your goal is to put it in as many locations. Starbucks, they created a product called the Starbucks store, not Starbucks coffee, the Starbucks store. And now it's everywhere in the world. See, understanding exponential growth, the thinking difference. Instead of thinking, how do I get 1 new customer, it's how do I get 100. Instead of how do I get a new customer, it's how do I get a new team member. Instead of how do I get a new team member, it's how do I open a new office. Instead of how do I open a new office, it's how do I open a new state. And instead of how do I open a new state, how do I open a new country. See, for me, Alex, I'll put exponential growth real simple. I think about every day, what's the next country I'm opening in? Not how do I get 1 more customer. And it's that level of difference of thinking that I think that primarily the first thing people will get from this is understanding that maybe they're thinking a little small. Maybe the fact that they say, hey, I'm a small business owner is the punch in the face. You know, that's the sort of thing. You got to stop thinking that way and think about how can I build that. So that being the case, 5 disciplines. Number 1, strategy. Number 2, business development. 3 is people. 4, execution. 5 is mission. Not in any necessary order, just the order I remember them in my head today. Which one do you want to touch on first, Alex?
I actually wanted to I want to tap, and Steve, feel free to just get in anytime.
And one thing I'll say is, you know, when we first talked to Brad about growing our business, it wasn't how do we go into multiple cities. It was how do we take over the whole U.S. and then go into other countries. So, you know, I can tell you personally that when you think about it is one thing. When you actually put pen to paper and have to start executing it, it's a big change. I mean, you have to think differently, and you know, you have the trials and tribulations and the you know, everything that goes along with that. But it's a big different shift, especially if you are used to being around people that say, wow, you guys are doing so good because you're growing 10, 20, 50%. And all of a sudden we're having conversations saying, no, that's not enough. You guys are not thinking big enough. You have to think nationally and internationally. So the mental shift, and Brad, I'm sure you go through this a lot with people, that's something that takes conditioning right there in of itself, in my opinion.
Well, the growth of a business owner into the growth of an entrepreneur, or the growth of an operator into the growth of an owner is a very important aspect. You know, I'll use a different industry. I remember working with one of my clients down in Auckland, New Zealand many years ago. He was a medical doctor. So GP, basically, running his medical office, had 2 doctors working in his office. And for me to teach him to be a business owner, massive shift. Like, he's like, I'm a doctor, though. I'm a doctor. I can't be a business person. I'm a doctor. And finally he got it when he realized, because, you know, his Hippocratic oath, the whole thing, he said, you know what? I can help a lot more people if I have hundreds of doctors working for me than I can if I just see patients every day. And so he finally got it. To be a business person was a bigger thing, and a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah, and I can say that, you know, from just our experience, you know, me and Pete, our relationship is he's that integrator that wants to make the perfect hamburger, and I'm the one that wants to be McDonald's and says, let's just get it out there. And so it's that, which I guess is necessary to be able to have that polarity with each other, but it's changing multiple mindsets, because now you got to embrace the team and get them to buy in and cultivate that whole concept to keep it elevating. And it's definitely not easy. I mean, it's a different level of thinking and operating, for sure, without a doubt.
That's why there's 5 disciplines, buddy. There's 5 of them, not 1. I see a lot of companies doing good at 2 or 3 of them, and they're okay, but until you get all 5, you don't get exponential. Alex, which was the one you were going to pick, buddy?
Well, I was going to challenge the mind, not challenge, but I was just going to better understand the application of the mindset. I see the other side of this. I see a squirrel mentality, like boom, like they're boom, boom. People start grabbing and throwing cash, right? Throwing cash at all these failed things, and they maybe mask it as experimentation, but it's not. There's no intent behind it. It's opportunistic grab. So I know how you're going to tackle that. But here's my question: a property management company owner who gets $23,000 a month, bro. They have 1 employee and their wife works for them, and they're busting their chops every day in the business. How, like, you're that guy? How do you tell him, hey, think, you know, Jakarta, or think, you know, Moscow, like, go big or go home? Like, how does this little guy, you know, turns his business around?
Well, I don't think he needs to turn it around. He's doing okay as it is. But, you know, it comes back to, what are your goals? I doubt there's anyone watching this podcast because they want less. You know, I think that everyone watching this has certain goals in their life or dreams of what they want to achieve. And I doubt it was bust a hump all day, every day to provide for a family that doesn't remember me. You know, I don't think that's the bust a hump theory. I think that the average person went into business to create an asset, to create a saleable item, to create something that they can build as a legacy for themselves, for their family. So something that makes them money, whether they get out of bed or not. That's, my definition of a business, a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without you. If you got to be there, it's not a business, it's a job, and you work for a lunatic. That's the basics of it. So what do I say to that person? I say, first of all, make a decision on what you want. Because the average business owner actually sets negative goals. Their goals are, well, I don't want to be working 80 hours a week. I don't want to be working 80 hours a week. That's what do you end up doing if that's your goal? You end up working 80 hours a week. Flip it over and say, okay, how do we go to positive goals? I want to be working 5 hours a day, 4 days a week. Great. There's a starting point. We now know where we're going to. I want to build a business that works without me by 2022. Fantastic. It's my 50th birthday. By my 50th, I want it to run without me. Or my 60th or 40th or whatever the date may be. But, when you start the process, I go back, Alex, when I first started Action Coach, I didn't have the vision on the first little bit, but then after 2 years of literally doing more than 200 seminars a year, busting 200 room nights in hotels, flights, all that stuff, I sat down and said, this is stupid. I am not doing business right. I am doing business the exact wrong way. If I want to build this as a real business, I need to sit back and actually say to myself, am I going to make a shift? And at some point, when you sit down and you recognize I'm working too damn hard, my hourly rate is worse than some of the people that work for me, that's when you got to take a look in the mirror and say, hey, I need to make a shift. And sometimes the best thing to do is to go and see a coach, get a coach, because that's why I started Action Coach. Business ownership, one of the loneliest jobs in the world. Who are you going to talk to about your problems? Where are you going to go? You're going to go to your bank manager and tell them about your problems? No, you try and hide that stuff from them. But your accountant, they're in the same boat you are. They hate their business more than you. Your spouse? No, you don't want to scare the crap out of them. You can't tell your staff your problems. And so that's why we bring entrepreneurs together at Action Coach, and we have them talk to each other and communicate and realize, holy heck, I'm not in this alone. There's actually other business people in the same stupid problems and making the same dumb mistakes I do. Once you realize that, hey, Brad Sugar's made the exact same dumb mistakes I did, and he's still there 26 years into his business, life gets a little easier when you realize that you're on a path, you're not in a broken spot. When you realize that you're learning. Why is your first business the hardest one, Alex? See if people can answer this one for me. Why is your first business hard? Same reason your first million's the hardest million.
By definition, you're stumbling. You just figuring things out. You don't have a system. You
got no idea what you're doing. And you've got to learn. Hardest work in business, learning work. The doing work's easy. Doing work is dead easy. The learning work, that's the hardest work in business.
What do you think a company like Empire, how familiar are you with Empire's operations and ambitions and sort of trajectory?
I'm on the board, so pretty damn close.
All right, so I can tell you that these guys are probably one of the best, if not the best, in my opinion, in the industry at executing against growth and visibility. There's as a marketer, I can point out 16 to 28 things that are not done or attempted or being experimented and sort of maybe needed to be tweaked. But overall, as a brand and respect, and Steve and Pete and what they've able to accomplish in a short time, it's top 1% in the industry for sure. But
I will give kudos to their business coach, Doug Winnie, down there in Texas. Doug has done an amazing job with these guys.
So he's coaching them on. Very, very good. But what do you feel these guys need next? And some people listening in a similar position, they've seen some success. They're heavily invested in growth. This industry is ripe. It's just beautiful. It's ready to grow. What do they need?
Well, let me first of all make two comments on the industry. Being an international business person, the industry in the United States is in the exact reverse position percentage-wise that I see the industry in countries like Australia and other Western markets around the world. Where 80% of people in Australia use a professional manager. People don't even consider managing it themselves. So I want to make that, and that's why I want people to realize you are in the right industry. There's a reason I invested in this company, and there's a reason why I'm in the industry.
Yeah.
Second thing is that the industry is going to go through a lot more professionalism in the next little while. A lot of those who are not willing to become professional are going to fall by the wayside. They just are. And it happens in every industry. When the industry coagulates, when the bigger, stronger players come together, the smaller players think, well, I'm getting shut out. Well, hang on. You made a choice not to be a professional big player. If you make that choice, remember that when the professional big players come to town, you chose not to go into that game, okay? Now, that leaves you with plenty of room to maneuver, by the way. They don't want to put you out of business. It's like small bookstores still do great, even though Amazon's the behemoth, if they pick their niche well. That being said, what does the team at Empire need next? Look, the simple reality is they now have a business plan to go national and global. They now have a plan to do that. It's taken 2 years of planning to develop that. So the next phase is capital. The next phase is develop the capital to be able to go and do that. And that's a scary phase for a lot of business people. They don't want partners. They don't want investors. They don't want that sort of thing. But the reality of the biggest businesses in the world is they don't do it with their own money. They don't bootstrap this thing. They raise capital and they go and do it in a way that makes sense. Well, I look back at the way, and this, all you got to do, Alex, to see where an industry is going is go back 5 to 10 years and look forward from 10 years ago. Look at how far this industry has come, or this profession has come in the last 10 years. You think of how far it's come in the last 10 years, the level of organization of Knockman, the level of organization, the level of just the fact that we have a podcast that you and I are on here today for this industry. 10 years ago, no such thing. Didn't exist.
3 years ago, no such thing. I mean, you don't have to go that far. Yeah, no. It's been improving slowly and sort of methodically over the last 7 years. And the last 3 years, it's truly like you could see this hockey stick is accelerating a lot, man. All that VC, all of that, top tier venture funding happening in the Silicon Valley. A lot of PEs, private equities are in it. So what is a guy like? Go ahead.
I'm just going to say a lot of those companies with capital are starting to realize that they don't necessarily want the risk. Why is it that BlackRock is going to developers and saying, okay, you develop to XYZ standard, we'll buy anything you can put together? Why are they doing that? Because they realize that the residential real estate business is a phenomenal business. Phenomenal business. I get excited by this, and I'll tell you a quick story as to why I get excited. I've been teaching real estate for a lot of years. I wrote the book, The Real Estate Coach, probably 15, maybe 12 years ago. Down in Auckland, New Zealand, I just got to go down there last Christmas because I'm the patron of a group down there. A gentleman by the name of Ron Hoi Fong, a little group called Renovations. Taught him a simple strategy way back when, how to take a 2-bedroom apartment, which has a nice big dining room that no one uses anymore, and turn it into a 3-bedroom apartment. Real simple. Go from 1 bath to 1.5 bath, or 2 bed to 3 bed, whatever it is. And in Auckland, New Zealand, back in the day, we were buying them for $400, adding an extra bedroom and bathroom for maybe $30,000, and valuing out at $600. Since I taught Ron that strategy way back when, Ron has gone on to teach it to a bunch of students. They now own over $1 billion in real estate in Auckland, New Zealand alone. It's all under management. I got to help people understand that this industry is one of the greatest. But until you understand that you are in the real estate industry and you're a player in that game and you get involved in all of it, it's going to be a challenge.
So where do people like Steve go to get capital? We can explore some options here. You have a lot more exposure and access to other I'm in the Silicon Valley, so I know how VCs and angels work. Angel is a possibility. VC, obviously, it's
Can I put it to you real simple, Alex? Yep. You don't go and find them. They come to you. Once you are doing what you're doing, and Steve will acknowledge this, he gets contacted every other week, every other month by a venture capital fund or a VC, a private equity firm looking to invest in this industry. Remember this, if you have to go chasing capital, you're doing something wrong. If capital comes chasing you, then you're on the right track. Capital, do you know how hard those guys in Silicon Valley have worked to place that money? Do you know how hard the guys at BlackRock and all of these other companies are working to find places to put their money? They literally employ people every day to do one job, call companies and see if we can buy them. So don't go chasing capital. Do the right thing. Capital come chasing you.
What do you have to say about that, Steve?
No, I agree. I mean, I've had many conversations with people that have approached us. And, you know, and Brad knows, I've talked to people in Australia. We've talked about doing something in Australia. I mean, so much that people are asking for our systems and they're asking for our checklists, and they want to take them to Malaysia and they want to take them to other countries. So I think what Brad's saying makes sense, because we keep getting more and more people talking to us, approaching us. It's kind of like we keep getting closer and closer to the top of that mountain. And we just keep doing what we're doing, and we just keep grinding away and refining the product and growing and, you know, listening to what Brad tells us. And, you know, as much as it makes our stomach hurt when we're done talking to him, we go out and execute, and we go out and execute. We keep, and I think as we're climbing this hill, we're noticing that more and more people are noticing us. I mean, you know, from the industry, a lot of people know who we are. They know what we're doing, at least on a cursory level, but they see what we're doing, and they see the action that we're taking. And, you know, Alex, you know, we're no strangers to taking action. We're not afraid to get our hands dirty. And I think it's a matter of time, is my opinion.
Brad, what do you think? So, you know, for a business owner, for a property management business owner, because most listeners are those people.
Yep.
And I want to sort of make this as tight of a fit and advice lane for them. As a business owner, as a visionary, somebody like Steve, who's not specifically interested in day-to-day operations, but who wants to speak and sort of move the business forward, like just sort of pull the business behind him or her. What are the top 3 things that Steve can do? Because let me explain something. I saw over the last 4 or 5 years, he started speaking at this little NARPM chapters and all that. And now he keynotes conferences, and like, he is an absolute pro when it comes to speaking, which is, I gave him that compliment. I'll give it to you again, Steve. It was amazing, because I saw him transition, right? But like, is this what he needs to be doing? Like, is that really the best for the business? Or what can we put Steve in?
Well, what you got to remember is every one of the owners watching this has a different set of goals. Okay. And so really what you got to start with is, what is the goal and what is the thing? Steve's goal for the Empire, and our goal for Empire, is to build an international organization. And that needs branding. And sometimes the best branding is get on stage, get paid to actually brand your business, get paid to speak and brand your business. Is that a tough gig? Yeah, it's really tough for Steve. He has to go to Australia and
fly his own plane.
And, you know, it's really tough. I feel sorry for him some days when he's posting all those pictures on Facebook and the world. And, you know, it's a tough struggle, Alex. You know, you watch it all the time. But I think it goes back to this. Every business owner has a different set of goals. Some people want to sell in the next 5 years. Some people want to have it run without them. Some want to hand it over to their kids and have the family run the business after them. Some want to go massive. Some want to stay a relative similar profitability level. I think every business owner, and this is, if I go back to the 5 disciplines, the first one is strategy that I mentioned today. And you've got to sit back and say, okay, what strategy will I get to that with? And by strategy, I don't mean something like, oh, my strategy is I use Facebook advertising. That's a tactic. Strategy is, what is the structure of the organization? What's the structure of the product? How do we actually sell, service, and sell our product? What is the methodology by which we do that? See, I have some companies that are rental businesses. The rental business is a strategy of business. It's a business model that you use. I have some that are franchises. That's, again, the strategy is using franchising. I have others that are licensed businesses. You know, it's looking at the real core strategy behind the business. then part of the strategy, and let's use an outside example. Let's say you want to go into the music business, right? What's your strategy? Well, one strategy is I'm a drummer in a band. I play gigs every night, and that's my strategy. I get paid part of the money. Or maybe your strategy is I'm the bar that brings in the guys to play in the band. Maybe your strategy is I'm the manager of bands. Maybe your strategy is I'm a production company. Maybe your strategy is I'm a record label. Maybe your strategy is, and it's the ultimate strategy in that business right now, is I'm iTunes, I'm Apple. I make no music, but I take a 30% clip on the way through of every
platform.
You know, or maybe you're Spotify, or maybe you're Pandora. Do you know what I mean? It's like the strategy of every business owner is different. And from the smallest strategy of I'm going to be the drummer in the band right through to the Spotify, Apple type thing, you can look at your own business and say, where do we fit within that spectrum? Hey, right now I'm just the drummer. Okay, that's fine, if that's the strategy you want to choose. So I think Steve has chosen a different strategy to some. But again, in the beginning, that wasn't his strategy. In the beginning, him and Pete were like, how do we get another door?
Right.
Let's get another door. Did we get one today? Yes, we got a door. Excellent. We rock.
Yeah. Brad, I got a question for you. So this is more, kind of with Alex and what he's doing. And first of all, I'll say, I noticed you don't like my Facebook posts as much as you used to. Nothing personal, but I just noticed.
On Facebook.
Well, as your business partner, maybe when I see your posts about getting new business, I'm more excited. As your business partner, I see Steve's at the beach again. Who's business?
Getting business, though. Getting business. So let me ask you this, and this is in relation to your book. So you have someone like Alex, okay? Mm-hmm. Alex has a marketing company. He is delving into the seminar, not the seminar business, but he's doing some I guess you could say seminar on PMs to grow their business.
Yep.
Where does that fit in the 5 disciplines? Is that a sidetrack? Is he sidetracking what he should be doing, or is that in line?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You've got to, like, your product mix is part of the strategy, what you're selling. Very few businesses get what they're selling right in the first 3 years, or how they're selling it right in the first 3 years. It takes several years. Now, here's the next thing. If you are not upgrading and updating how you are selling it, how you're pricing it, how you're pushing it, as you know, Steve, we look at the world and we sit down and we go, okay, in Australia, they charge rent weekly, which means they get 2 extra payments a year. How do we move America to weekly rentals so we get the extra 2 payments a year? In other markets around the world, they have a blacklist of tenants. They literally have a system of rating tenants, so the tenant will get blackballed, and therefore they'll never be allowed to rent again if they mess up in a system. That's coming to America at some point. Whether I develop it or whether someone else fills it, there's so many different things.
Right.
So in looking at his business strategy, there has to be a mix of your products and services. Apple didn't just stay with music. Apple went to apps. It went to TV shows. It went to movies. It's now going into renting, all that stuff. Why did Apple go and pay $3 billion for Beats headphones? Not to get a headphone company, to get the fact that they had all of the contracts with the music companies for music rental. Because the music companies to Apple were like, we're not giving you a rental agreement. You guys already messed with us around this other agreement and beat us up. We're not going to give you that. And now Apple says, well, I'll just buy a company that you already gave it to. Thanks. So strategy changes over time. And if your business doesn't grow and shift with the market, then your business gets left behind. Bill Gates said it. Do you remember this quote of Bill Gates? There's probably a kid in the garage somewhere trying to put Microsoft out of a business. He was close. There was 2 kids in a dorm room, Larry and Sergey. Google almost got him. It almost got him.
Right. So let me ask you this, Alex. This for Alex. So this is your 3rd year doing this conference, right? What is the strategy, and are you changing it with your business? Like, what's the reason for doing these conferences?
I think it was more a void of high-level, master-level education in the space that we needed to fill, because I want my customers well-informed and educated. My customers who are not are basically not profitable for us and a terrible outcome for them. Like, they need to be bought in. They need to understand that, look, I'm going to spend $50,000 a year marketing. Like that is going to bring the outcome. And no, it's
Invest.
not tomorrow.
Invest.
Right. Investment, right? Versus here's the mindset, Brad. Mindset 3-4 years ago, you taking $1,000 a month I pay you out of the mouth of my children. What have you done for me today? Today. Like every day, and I'll call you on the phone. And as a service company, like you can't sustain that kind of.
You see that book up there, Buying Customers? Make them all read that one, Buying Customers. Because I mean, that's what it is. You have to buy new customers. You can't just get them for free. You've got to invest money to buy a customer. The question is, at what price? At what price are you buying them? And if you know the price you're paying for them, and you know, I pay X, I make Y. Therefore, I can afford to buy as many as I can at X. I learned that back when I had a dog food business. It was a fun lesson. I tell it in the book.
Yeah, it's math, right? I mean, it's basic math that they have to learn.
Well, good marketing is math.
Right. You think basic, right? So you think this is, I'm just propagating this sort of notion of, look, yeah, it is the return on investment, the customer acquisition cost versus annual contract value versus lifetime customer value. The numbers work, but nobody chooses to use those numbers. It's all, a lot of times this business, well, before this conference, it's all by feel. Like there are few operators. Even Steve 3 years ago, dude, he was stumbling around like a child. Like a child, this guy was.
A real big child, though, Alex. Real big one.
Yeah. But as far as a business guy and a premier property management company, he was just trying to figure this out. And so we had to put together something with a monumental effort, I must add, because running a conference is like you could shoot yourself in the face. Or
the first 3 years running a conference, you're going to lose money. It's guaranteed. You just because you got to build the whole product and program. You don't run conferences because because you want to make $1 gazillion. You run conferences because you're a damn nice guy. That's the reality of it.
And that's true. And that's the authority play. It's like, look, I want to be able to get the right clients for my company, 4.5, and I want to make them successful and keep them.
Hey,
how do I do that?
Alex, how would you like to get a business idea that's going to make you $1 gazillion?
Now, yes, I'll take it.
Okay. So your conference is going to move into the realm of being the certifier of property managers. Your conference is going to become the certification company. I was chatting with a buddy of mine just a couple of nights back, and he runs a little company called digitalmarketer.com. Their last conference, 10 years in, 7,200 people. They are the certifier of digital marketing executives. So they put together the certification to be a digital marketing executive, change the entire business model. See, that's strategy. See that, Steve? That's a twist. It gives a strategy. And hey, Alex, see this?
Yeah.
About 4 million books you now need to buy just for that free advice.
4 million?
4 million.
Wow.
That's it. Well, at least 100. At least 100. Got to give them to all the attendees at your conference. There you go.
For people, Brad, for people who are listening by audio and not watching, can you say what the title of the book is, when it's coming out?
Pulling Profits Out of a Hat. It's out on April 1st. You can pre-order it now if you go to pullingprofits.com. And April 1st, or you can still pre-order it on Amazon right now as well. But yeah, pullingprofits.com, jump on there, pre-order it. I'm really excited about this book because first and foremost, as Steve mentioned, I found a niche in the market where I think that understanding exponential growth and understanding that level of strategic thinking in business, understanding how to build your people so that they build the business, get the execution right, all that stuff. And the mission is really about how you get human interactivity, human connectedness. Do people love working for you? Do customers love buying from you? Too many businesses, they think the word love is just way out of line. It's like, no, the word love in business is exactly what it needs to be. People need to love coming to work. You want a highly engaged, highly loving workforce. You want a customer base that loves doing business with you so they're willing to share and teach and let the market know all about you. So.
Fantastic. I think this is a good place for us to call this. I am very excited about the book. I'm very excited about the book. I am going to get it. I'm going to read it. And if Brad right now, go live, if Brad wants to come to my show, the Property Management Show, where I'm going to talk to him about the 5 disciplines and actual, dig in, unpack some of the book. I'd love that. My show is the longest running show in the property management space. It's been around for 3 years.
Do you know, here's the real interesting thing. Podcasts have really only been around 3 to 5 years. Most of us did these things and recorded them and sent them out on CDs. I remember doing my CD of the month, you know, now to do a podcast. I literally, on my social media, Facebook and Insta and LinkedIn, literally every day I get in my car, I do a 5-minute teaching video. People can jump on and they get 5 minutes of education a day. And that's what we as business people need. We need that jolt. So sure thing, buddy. I'd be happy to be on the show. Once I see the order for 100 of these things go through, I'll be on that show in a heartbeat.
You got it. Well, if we do end up having you speak, right, or asking you to speak, and things will, I'm not going to put any information out there that is false, but when we bring a speaker, A, we pay him, B, we buy books for everybody. Like this year, Joey Coleman's coming out. That guy is legit. He's coming out, and we buy him this book, Never Lose a Customer Again, for everybody.
Fantastic.
You know, honestly, I think if Brad, and again, I'm not speaking for him, but if Brad had come to one of your events or a NARPM event or something to actually speak and basically, you know, proof of concept, what Pete and I talked to people about, I think so many people would walk away scratching their heads going, I need a coach. Like I need a Doug Winnie. I need someone to help me get to that level, because what I thought I knew is not what I know. And that I think would be a true educational platform for people to realize.
I don't think the property management business is any different to any other, guys. We all become real experts at what we do. And we sometimes have to be reminded that we need to be great business owners more than we need to be great at our industry.
Yeah,
you know?
agree.
Guys, this has been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. I did watch a few of your earlier podcasts, guys. I went back and watched a few. And I got to say, congrats on everything you're doing and doing a great job at helping an industry grow. And I really love and appreciate the work you're doing for the industry.
Thanks, Brad. It was a pleasure. Steve, always a good time, buddy.
Yep.
And I'll talk to you guys soon. Be well.
Okay. See you, Brad. See you, Alex.